In the last few years, we've seen a lot of automakers come out with off-road focused versions of their midsize and small crossovers, and they're meant to go a little further off-road than the regular version might be able to without sacrificing on-road comfort and ride quality. This is Out Motorsports, the channel for cars as you are, and I am here with the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek Edition. Now, I drove one of these Pathfinders when they first came out. These came out in 2022. It's the 5th generation of Pathfinder, and I towed with it because Nissan rates these for 6,000 pounds if they're properly equipped. It's one of the higher tow ratings in this segment of mid-size 3-row crossovers, and I wanted to see how that went. But now I've got this Rock Creek Edition, and I want to talk about what makes it different, and what makes it, in theory, a little better off-road, and then talk about how it is to live with, because even if you are leaving the pavement, you do have to live with these things day to day. So let's get into it. Okay, so here's the tea on this Pathfinder Rock Creek. I think Nissan has done some functional stuff to make this a little more capable off-road than it might be otherwise if you got an SV, an SL, or a Platinum, but they didn't do quite as much as some of the competition has done. I'm talking about people like Kia with the Telluride X-Pro, Ford with the Explorer Timberline, and Honda with the Pilot TrailSport in particular. So I want to talk through what Nissan has done, because there is some stuff here that is functional, that is helpful, that I do think is useful for this Pathfinder, but there's also some bits that I think they just could have done a little bit more. And it's important to caveat all of this with, these are all kind of off-road cosplay. Like, they're going to go farther off-road than the, in this case, a Platinum or an SV might with highway tires, but none of these is a true off-road, or none of them is going to be something with real four-wheel drive with a serious suspension lift and great angles and all that sort of thing. So let's just talk through what I like and then talk about where things could go a little bit differently for me. So with that, first thing I want to show you is the wheels and tires. So Nissan has done an 18-inch wheel here. These are called a beadlock style because they look like they could be beadlock wheels, but in fact they are not. They're just an 18-inch alloy with a silver rim and a black center. Now, it is wrapped with a Toyo Open Country all-terrain tire, which is a very serious tire. It's a 265 section width, and this is going to be the single best upgrade that Nissan has done to this vehicle. So this is a really nice thing to see. Now, this plus a slight suspension modification gives the Pathfinder Rock Creek a little bit more ground clearance. It's about 0.6 inches, but it's still going to be lower than a lot of the competitions. Some of them are going to be a little bit better, some are going to be significantly better, and then the Subaru Outback Wilderness, which is admittedly a little smaller, offers over 9 inches of ground clearance. This is only going to be 7.7. Now, looking further up at the front here, this is all styling, this is all visual, but Nissan does give you a unique bumper, a unique front fascia here. And the nice thing about it is that the bottom half of this is actually just black plastic. So this will resist some dents and dings, some scrapes, a little bit better than the painted stuff would up top. And if you look at a regular Pathfinder, this will be painted, so this is a little bit functional. Now, looking further down, some other competitors, namely the Honda Pilot TrailSport, give you some skid plates. And in this case, Nissan gives you kind of the look of skid plates, but these are not going to be actual skid plates, they're just plastic. So this, compared to, say, the Honda will give you skid plates that can actually support the weight of the vehicle, and these are not going to do that. And then moving around to the rear of the Pathfinder Rock Creek, you see you've got, of course, another wheel back here with that Toyo tire. I do think they're pretty handsome wheels, and the tires look good on this thing. And back here you've also got a unique rear end going on with a unique bumper. This can still tow as much as the other higher tier Pathfinders that can tow 6,000 pounds, so it is rated for that. You've got a standard 2-inch receiver, your safety chains here, and then a 7-pin wiring connector. I will link the towing video in the description if you want to see how a different Pathfinder pulled. And then if we move up, you see the Rock Creek badging on the tailgate. Nissan is very proud of the Rock Creek badging, and as someone who lives in DC, near Rock Creek Park, I do in fact like this thing being called a Rock Creek Edition. But as we move further up to the top, you see there is a unique roof rack on here. This is giving me Nissan Xterra vibes from, 15, 20 years ago. This can support a little bit more static weight, up to 220 pounds. I think it looks really cool. We'll talk about how it affects the driving of the vehicle in a minute, but it is a nice touch. It adds to a really good, rugged look overall. I don't necessarily love the new Pathfinder styling, but I don't hate it, and I think this, with the updated Rock Creek bits, does certainly help things a little bit. Now, moving inside, there is some more change going on. It's mostly just visual, so let's take a look here. With the interior, this is going to be kind of a mix of leatherette and cloth. You've got Rock Creek embroidered on the seats, you've got kind of leatherette on the sides, and then cloth in the center here. It seems like everyone's decided that orange is the off-road stitching and accent color of these off-road focused vehicles. So in this case, Nissan does have that orange stitching, plus the Rock Creek logos that are orange. And you see here, even your armrest says Rock Creek on it, so yay in that regard. Now otherwise, this is just going to be standard Pathfinder interior, which is to say it's plenty fine, it's plenty nice. We'll talk more about that in the driving portion. And then looking down here, you do get all-weather floor mats that say Pathfinder Rock Creek on them. I think all-weather mats are a nice touch on every vehicle. And then popping the hood on the Pathfinder Rock Creek, we see the standard 3.5 liter Nissan V6 under here. And this is going to make a little bit more horsepower and a little bit more torque than the other Pathfinders. And that is simply because Nissan has remapped the fuel system. So they've just given it a more aggressive tune. And that's going to just match what's in the Infiniti QX60, which is this car's platform mate. So you get about 11 more horsepower, 11 more pound-feet of torque. Does it set the world on fire? No, but it's nice to have it. Now the caveat there is you have to use premium gas. So if you want that extra, you know, it comes with a little bit more of a price. Now that is paired to a ZF 9-speed torque converter automatic and standard all-wheel drive with 7 different drive modes, including a few that are optimized here for off-roading. All right, so let's talk about driving the Pathfinder Rock Creek. So first of all, acceleration is strong. I don't know if you really notice the extra horsepower and torque here, but this is plenty punchy. It's a big V6. It makes, you know, close to 300 horsepower and almost that in torque rating. It feels nice, and I like the sound. It's an evolution of the VQ. It's a lovely engine. It is paired to a 9-speed automatic that does a fine job. It is always hunting for a higher gear. It wants to always be way up there for the sake of fuel economy, and that is something that I don't love, simply because there's a lot of gears to go back down for if you're going for a pass or something. But that's just the nature of modern transmissions. There is a sport mode here if you want to enable that for, you know, backroads driving or whatever, but you're not doing that in the Rock Creek because of these tires. So let's talk about tires in just a second. Final thing with acceleration and drivability, the throttle mapping of this thing drives me nuts. So there's a noticeable lag in the pedal when you go for it away from a stoplight. You'll see here when we take off, there's just a bit of a lag. I don't love it, and that also comes into play when you're pulling out to pass someone or whatever the case may be. It just is not quite as responsive as I would want. Granted, you do have that sport mode, like I said, but it's not gonna, people aren't using sport mode to pull out and pass someone on the highway. That's not what these are for. So I just wish it was a little different there. All right, so we've got that green light. I'm gonna go ahead and give it throttle, and it's fine, but there's a delay. And I just wish it was a teeny bit sharper. Now with all that, we of course have to talk about tires. They impact drivability a whole lot. And in this case, they are adding a lot of capability, which is fantastic. But with the added capability comes some downsides for the street. So first things first, if I put this in we're gonna put it in mud and rut mode, I can go right through some mud and get this thing plenty dirty here. Now the tires are doing a fine job getting me moving here in this muddy construction site. The traction control's working. This is all doing a really nice job. However, they come with a penalty. So I've just done my off-roading. I'm gonna go ahead and put this back to highway mode, and I'm gonna go ahead and accelerate and leave from my off-pavement excursion here. You can hear all that mud that's got pulled up into the chunks of tire tread. It's gonna be flung out onto the road. And the downside that comes with this, especially as you pick up speed, get up to, you know, 50, 55 miles an hour, is noise. So you're gonna get more road noise, you're going to get more wind noise, and that is a mix of the tires and the roof rack. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, and if you really want this thing for the sake of off-roading, great. You understand those compromises. Jeep Wrangler owners, for example, understand the compromises that come with owning a Wrangler Rubicon on big off-road tires. You get what you get. This, if you're using it mostly for on-road driving, is going to feel it's going to be noisy versus like a Pathfinder SL or Platinum with the highway tires, and those don't have the big roof rack on the top. And so otherwise, this is just a Pathfinder. It is a plenty nice place to spend time. They've made a little bit of improvement to it, very small stuff, since I drove that 2022 model year when they first came out. The biggest thing, and this is such a cheesy small thing, but it's an important detail to me, the labels on the buttons for the sound system all line up. And that sounds so dumb, but when these cars first came out, they had a little bit of kind of teething issues with small details, and those sorts of things have been rectified, which I do appreciate, because it means that they are paying more attention and getting the small details right. And the way these are all priced, all these big 3-row crossovers are expensive cars for a lot of people. The details need to be good. So in that case, this is a nice place to sit. The dash is relatively low. The control layout is good. There's plenty of buttons and knobs and dials, which are great. This drives big. It feels big. And the third row is not huge for adults versus some of the competition, but it is usable enough. So all that to say, this is starting from the point of a fairly basic Pathfinder. You don't have a sunroof, you don't have premium audio. There are certain things that are missing here, but that's all right, all things considered. Where I don't know if I'm okay with some of this is just in what the Rock Creek edition gives you, and that's because other manufacturers do more. Other manufacturers are giving you more ground clearance, they're giving you skid plates that can support the weight of the vehicle that are actually metal, they're giving you tow hooks that can be used for recovery, they're giving you limited slip differentials, they're doing things that make these actually more capable if you take them to where you're going to be testing what they can actually do off-road. This will do just fine in a lot of cases. It's going to rely heavily on the tires and the all-wheel drive software to do everything that they're saying it'll do. But if you're looking to go farther off-road, this is not going to be the one that will go the farthest. So that's my only real issue with it. It just feels like they could have done a little bit more versus Honda, Ford, and Subaru in particular. And I do actually like the Pathfinder. The one I had before was a Platinum, and it was a very nice place to spend time. I think it's a competitive car in the segment, competitive enough, and this one, just being the Rock Creek, it doesn't fit in quite as much as I had hoped. That said, it does have a very high tow rating compared to a lot of the competition, and it is, I think, a good look. I've liked walking up to it. I don't think the Pathfinders are the most stylish things in the world, but this gives it, between the roof rack, the wheels, the tires, the slightly different front end, it gives it a pretty purposeful look, and I'm kind of into it. I don't love the gray paint. I'd pick something else, but it is not bad. I'm pretty here for it. So that to me is all good. Now, if we head right back, I'm going to put this back in the mud and rut setting here. Let's just do a little discussion. Let's just talk about taking off from a stop in the mud. So if I go right through all of this and we kind of come through here and we come to a stop, this is really slick stuff. And if I just give it some throttle, the traction control is going to do the work. It's going to get me out of here. And this is going to be just totally fine. Now, if the car is digging into things, that is going to be, a little more difficult, but the tires are good. They're very capable. So, like I said, the tires are really what makes this thing very usable. Now, coming up on this guy, yeah, traction control is not going to let me do that. The approach and departure angles here are not fantastic. Come on, software. Let me get out of here. So your angle's not great. Some competitors offer more, but this all does, it works, but there's just more they could do. All right, that's it for this review of the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek Edition. Thank you as always for coming along. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe right here on YouTube. Follow us on other social channels and head over to outmotorsports.com if you'd like to join a community of LGBT automotive enthusiasts and motorsports competitors. We've got a bunch of events coming up in 2024. We'd love to see you for any and all of that. Till next time, please stay safe, be well. See you for the next one.